This podcast is brought to you by Dragon Shield. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Make sure you go check out the affiliate link down below.
So we want to make a podcast about the ban cards in Commander, the ban list.
Ban list.
CDH ban list, why there shouldn't be one, casual, why if there should be a separate ones, if they're not. Cards we can play in Commander.
Why some of the cards are on there. You know,
can't play with them.
Certain types.
But I feel like I don't know if I really care that much about the ban list. Like I like it. It's fine. The ban list. Thassa's Oracle is too strong, but I don't really care. I like playing with powerful cards. That's like one of the main reasons why I play the format.
That's exactly where I'm at too. Like I don't think that we should really be making any changes to EDH. I think right now it's in a really healthy place, and there's cards that I think that you tend to see in higher power and like CEDH tables that you don't always see in other tables too.
Dockside Extortionist, Thassa's Oracle, Underworld Breach. Those are like the strongest cards in CDH. I would never play them in Casual Commander just because I don't think they're even really that good in Casual Commander.
They're not as good because your decks aren't tuned, and like I still like to try to have like some sort of a theme. Are we all squared away, by the way?
Yeah,
how does our
it's
angle
fine.
look?
Yeah, it's
okay.
fine.
I just want to make sure because before I want to make sure we're all set up because I don't want to hit record and then all of a sudden, we haven't changed the lights to purple yet or anything.
Right, yeah. We're not actually, this isn't a podcast. We're just going to talk about the podcast.
Right. We need to make sure that we're planned out for this podcast we're going to do. Yeah. Okay. So I need to take a couple notes. Okay. So the ban list, right? We don't. I don't want any changes to it. I don't want to add anything to it.
I mean, those three cards that I mentioned: Underworld Breach, Thassa's Oracle, Dockside Extortionist. Those are the strongest cards. And
Agreed.
I feel like if you ban a card based on power level to like fix CDH, those would be the cards you would go for. But that's not the goal of the ban list. The ban list's goal is not based on power level, and that's kind of why CDH is fun, because we're taking a format that's made for fun and playing it as powerfully as possible. Though it's meant to be broken. I
totally agree, because I wouldn't want to play CEDH if we started to ban a bunch of different cards that are quote unquote too powerful, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be doing that. And if you just ban the best thing, there's going to be a new best thing that people are going to hate and ban. It's a never-ending cycle. Or want to ban. Exactly, right? So it's this now, it's something else later. I'd rather have the main archenemy be Thassa's Oracle so that we can all still play Thassa's Oracle and then just not have any changes. I don't think I would even take anything off the ban list either. I think some stuff would be fun, but
there's some that I want to. Recurring Nightmare.
That would be fun,
that
right?
Card,
Recurring Nightmare.
I definitely want to play that card, but I understand why it's on there.
Right, and that's kind of where I'm at. And I don't typically like the thought experiments of like, oh, we should unban this because like, well, if there's no serious conversation about it, I don't want to, take up a bunch of my time thinking about something that's not going to happen.
I could be spending my time thinking about the format the way that it is, thinking about the way that somebody else thinks that it could be, not as interesting.
Exactly.
I want to think about how it is.
That's exactly how I am too. So like a lot of these cards, like I think it'd be fun to play, but like I'm not like super longing to play any of them.
So if we did a podcast talking all about the ban list, the podcast would be over right now.
The podcast would be over right now.
Which is why I'm thinking we should add other things to the discussion of cards you could play in Commander.
But we don't play because
we don't play.
But like everything that you mentioned when we were talking earlier on the phone about this stuff,
do you do like this or like this?
I do like this because I'm still 90s.
Right,
I was born in the 90s, so I do this.
Not this.
Not this. Okay, no. Yeah.
Right. Keep going.
Some of the things you mentioned earlier, like we still can't play. So like there's still technically banned cards. Like Scheherazade is still a banned card.
Right, yes.
And like the anti cards, like they're all still banned.
No matter what. Even if we could play those, we wouldn't play those.
Would you wouldn't play with anti?
No, not anti for real. Like you have to give your cards away. That feels so bad.
It would be kind of weird because in CEDH we tend to play a lot of proxies. So if you just gave someone like a basic land with a piece of paper in front of it, like great, okay, that's something. But like if you bought yourself in Lion's Eye Diamond and that's your anti, that will feel really bad.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of interesting because some of the anti cards like they set the cards aside, right? Or do they put them back? I don't even know how anti works.
You set them aside.
So they're removed from your deck.
Yeah.
So if I reveal like a Thassa's Oracle or something, it's anti. It's like separate.
It's anti.
I don't have my Thassa's Oracle anymore.
Not only is your main win condition gone, but now also you have to give away your Thassa's Oracle.
That seems, I don't know. That just doesn't seem worth it.
Appealing. No, it's no wonder why they got rid of this mechanic.
Fully with it.
Like in the first couple of months that this game was out.
Right, yeah, it's not a great one.
It's dumb.
Not looking to see anti return in Commander anyway. But there's the other cards too, like the draft cards, the conspiracy cards. They don't even work.
They don't work.
We don't have to talk about them.
They don't
when we do a tour of the podcast.
Yeah, I don't think we
won't
really
talk
have to
about them.
Again, this is all like kind of thought experiment kind of cards that like, well, Even if we did have them, like they're not. There's Commander Draft. Have you done Commander Draft before?
No, I haven't done Commander.
Neither have I.
What did I just say? I haven't done Commander Draft. No, I haven't done Commander Draft.
But that's like completely different.
That seems
because
exhausting.
It's not like you can have like a ban list for draft.
I get so attached to a Commander deck. I wouldn't want to draft it, and then you have to play
throw it away immediately.
Draft
right?
like you play 3 quick rounds, and then you move on.
That's why I have to take a picture of all of the draft decks that I like and do well with, because like I'm never gonna have them again.
Right.
Especially now that they're all just like in the internet. They're just somewhere out in the open in the world.
You can't even touch them again.
You can't. No, you can't access them again. Maybe if you had 17 lands, you
all right.
could.
Okay, so let's get back on topic. We want to try talking about.
Yeah, because we have to start recording this.
What's up?
My card won't start.
Still won't start.
No.
Do you want to be in the podcast?
We haven't started it yet.
This man should be in the podcast. He's so good.
Jack's a cute man.
Jack, how do you feel about the ban list?
Why are you staring at me so much?
Jack?
Jill's just like down
Hi.
on the landing. Okay, I just wanted to let you know.
All right. Have a good one.
I hope you start the podcast soon.
Me too. As soon as we wrap up this conversation about what it's about,
I know.
we'll start it.
I gotta eat. I'm hungry.
Okay.
All right.
What were we talking about?
We were talking about what other things we don't want to talk about on the podcast.
Well, all right. So I feel like we've gotten through most of the things we don't want to talk about.
I think so too.
We don't want to talk
Yeah,
about
really.
anti. We don't want to talk about manual dexterity cards. Not everyone can do that stuff. So it's fine.
I think that kind of stuff is
Chaos Orb. Is that the card?
Chaos Orb. Yeah,
Fun card,
What about,
but yeah, I get it.
What about like uncards? How do you feel about like uncards? Like, should we talk about that?
Yeah, well, it's weird now because they have the silver border's gone. Now we just have the Edcorn, so some of the uncards are good. Like Saw in Half is like a real CDH card that I play in Corvold, and it's been awesome with the new Hordling Broodlord. What is the card?
That's exactly correct. It's either a demon or it's a dragon.
It's definitely a dragon.
It could be a demon though.
It's demonish. It does what
demonic dragon.
Yeah, it does what Runescar Demon does, so it's demonish. But the line is really easy with Saw in Half. You find the Saw in Half off of your first target. You saw in half your dragon. You can normally do this by tapping your dragon and probably like your Corvold and your Dockside Distortionist, so it's like free. You make 2 dragons, and with those 2 dragons you can find Sacrifice and Peer into the Abyss. Tap the 1 dragon to cast a Sacrifice, make 8 black mana, cast Peer into the Abyss. You can tap the second demon dragon, it's a dragon, tap the second one for another black to pay for the Convoke, so you can end up with 2 extra black mana floating after you cast a Peer into the Abyss. I think it's a pretty good line. I like it. You can reanimate it. There's other cool things you can do with it.
I think it's really nice too. And like we wouldn't have that in the format if it wasn't for these uncards.
So why not play the other uncards? I guess the reason being like the other uncards are silly. They make you do things, and I don't want like other cards to make me like tap my head and call a friend or something.
One of my favorites is Denim Walk. Like a creature with Denim Walk can't be blocked by someone wearing denim.
That's kind of fun.
So like people would have to. It's much funnier in the 90s than taking like a 2023 look at it, and we're like, you can't just take off your pants in the middle of anywhere, right?
Yes.
Like that's really funny, but
don't do that.
You can't do that.
Yeah, don't take it too far.
Yeah. So like there's it's an interesting direction that they're going in with what they're doing with the acorn symbol. I think it's just a very confusing way.
The silver border was so easy.
It's so easy,
It's so
right?
easy to see and understand. It's so obviously different. The acorn is easy to miss. I don't see the acorn sometimes. I go, why the fuck is this card so?
Walk me through this. Why couldn't we have some silver border and some black border cards in the set?
I guess like a printing issue thing. They didn't want to pay for both. It seems like it's like a fixable thing. Seems so easy to me. It's it's so easy. Keep the silver border. I don't know why. I mean,
it's got to be a printer issue. It's got to be a printer issue.
It's just we had such a clear and easy way. We don't have to rehash this in the podcast though, because people have talked about this. Why silver borders should have remained. We all know that silver borders should have remained. What we should be talking about is, should you be able to play these silver border cards in Commander? And I don't really like the word should. I don't love them in CDH. I think they're actually pretty bad in CDH.
Most of them are, because a lot of them deal with like randomness and rely on someone from outside of the game to affect something.
But for Commander, if you played an uncard in your Commander deck, I definitely wouldn't mind. I don't know if I would ever go to look for an uncard, because none of the effects are like things that I would want to really be doing. I don't care about that. But it would kind of be cool to have one like impact a casual game, I feel like, right? It's never happened to me. I don't know.
I've always wanted to play Ashnod's Coupon in Urza, though.
What is that?
That's a 0-mana artifact.
Oh, great.
And you can sacrifice it to make a player go get you a drink. But I would have to pay for the drink.
Oh,
if it's,
okay.
unless
It says
it's like
that on the
water.
card?
Yes, it's actually an errata on the card that says that I have to pay for the drink.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't know. To be honest, I haven't looked at him a ton. So when we do the podcast, I'll have to do some research.
Yeah, right. I'll tell you what. I'll pull up the Scryfall link with all of the uncards, and maybe we'll talk about a couple.
That
other
would be
ones.
like a great way, because normally podcasts, they have all the information in front of them. They know what to talk about. So we should do something like that.
Well,
maybe.
as you know, we've structured the podcast so it's a little bit more like on the fly, and it's not as scripted. I don't know why I'm telling you this. You already know this.
Right. No, yeah, I do know this, which is another reason why this one isn't scripted at all. This one's very off the cuff.
That's a great joke. Remember that for the podcast. I think it would be cool to start seeing more uncards in a lot of these different spaces in Commander 2. Where does that leave, like, the specific cards that Wizards prints for the employees?
Yeah, like the gift cards.
Yeah.
Like
well, no, they don't give them a gift card.
But they're like holiday
it's not
cards.
like oh, hey, you can go get $25 off at a TGI Fridays.
Yeah, it's like a gift. Here's your bonus. Your bonus is this magic card.
Oh, yeah, I thought you meant like a Dave & Buster's power card kind of gift card. That's what I thought you meant.
You can't use it
like
at
what
other
your
places.
grandmother gives you.
No, you can't use the card for other places.
See,
it only works at the Dave & Buster's.
I wanted to try it out at the TGI Fridays at Fox Chase.
It won't work at the TGI Fridays. It only works at the Dave & Buster's. What other cards are there that we could play in Commander but don't?
See, that's the thing. Like, I don't know how far this podcast could go.
This one can't even be that long.
Yeah, right? Because there's really not a lot of cards that you can't play in Commander, which I think is the better way to go. Like, let's be clear. Like, I'd rather have a very small ban list with just, like, a couple of dumb cards that are on there. I think Black Lotus is fine to stay banned.
Sure, yeah.
Like, I don't think we need that.
Definitely.
But what would Ancestral Recall do?
Could we could talk about the cards that are on the ban list one by one and see if they should remain banned or not?
Yeah, okay. We can go
Maybe
through.
that would be something we should talk about.
We should at least go through some of them.
Okay.
What about like all the fast mana, the Moxen and stuff like that?
It's way too powerful.
So I won't drink when we record the podcast.
No, yeah, I agree with all those being banned. Number one, them being impossible to get and way too expensive. I think Time Twister should also be on the ban list just because it is one of the Power 9. It's
We were just going to plan on talking about all the cards that we don't want to ban because we shouldn't ban anything, and you're just going to come right out with hey guys, we should immediately ban Time Twister.
Well, just because it's so expensive, it feels like it's unfair that the card even exists in like an allowable, playable format. It's just like it's too expensive because they'll never reprint it again.
Proxying has become a lot more acceptable, even in some casual circles too.
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like I feel like the price tag of a card shouldn't necessarily keep it out of the format just because, right?
Yeah, I agree, but we don't live in a perfect world.
What's that threshold then? What's that threshold?
I don't know. That's the issue.
Because then we're going to start getting Mana Crypts banned, and we're going to start getting Mox Diamonds banned, and like it's going to start making the whole format kind of devolve into what we don't want, which is a watered down version of what CEDH is.
Yeah, that's true. I think it probably makes a lot more sense that the card be unbanned and then you just proxy them when they're expensive.
I think
that
so
we're already
too.
doing it. Yeah, so you can play with the powerful cards. I mean, in that way, should we just be playing no ban list Commander then, so we can play those Moxes? Because those Moxes are fun.
They were really fun. When we played no ban lists on the channel, I had a fucking blast with that.
Yeah, that was great. The issue with those decks, I feel like, is they were a little bit too fast. All those games ended on turn 2.
Mulligans is the early game, and then your turn 1 is the late game.
Yeah, so there would be a lot of games where players you just wouldn't really do anything, and in CDH that happens sometimes, but I feel like a lot less. Like the most games, you're at least involved in the game a decent amount. So a lot of those no ban list ones, they were done way too quick.
That's the thing, and the way that the current mulligan rule is set up, like having a free mulligan that gets you back to 7 really puts an emphasis on needing these fast mana spells because it just helps you propel yourself so much farther into the game at a much quicker rate than even in CEDH.
Yeah, definitely. The differences in power level between like Mox Emerald and like a Llanowar Elf are so huge that if you mulligan so aggressively to find that Mox Emerald, it definitely pays off, especially when you get the extra cards, especially in Commander when you have 2 extra cards sitting in your hand, command zone, to start the game with. When you mulligan onto 5, you're really still at 7 because you still have 2 partner commanders a lot of times.
That's also true too, right? You have Thrasios and Tymna right there. Yeah. You're down with all the the Power 9 staying banned then. So, like, Ancestral Recall you don't want in the format.
No, I don't think so. I mean, it would be another fun card to play. I think it's just all of these cards, I think I'm going to say, if I wanted to play them in CDH, I would play them in no banless commander. I feel like we would just play no banless commander instead. Yeah. And then maybe I could ask my CDH opponents, like, hey, do you mind if I play this deck that has Black Lotus for fun? Maybe sometimes some people will say, like, yeah, let's see what it does, see what it is.
That's fair.
I mean, even in CDH, you're still playing counterspells, so it's not like the no banless commander is always going to be able to be unstoppable.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Still
maybe
play
you could.
packs and you can still play all that kind of stuff. Okay, well, what other cards do you want to talk about? Would you do anything with, like, Yawgmoth's Bargain?
My opinion is going to be the same on all.
I realize,
right? I realize
like
that's after
another thing.
My opinion is going to be the same. It's like, I don't really care. Like for me, the puzzle in my head is the ban list. That's the ban list is the puzzle. Right? So like thinking about taking them off the ban list, like that's not part of the puzzle.
That's not part of the puzzle. Again, we were just saying how this is not what we want the podcast to be.
All right,
we don't want the podcast to be like a bunch of like maybes.
I don't want to talk about why we don't want to remove anything from the ban list.
Do we want to talk about why we don't have a separate ban list from the casual format?
Yeah, that would be. So the biggest reason for me is why don't you just create a separate CDH ban list so that we don't from casual commander, and CDH is separate and we can balance them separately, because a lot of the issues that have with CDH is why are these cards allowed? Why are these certain powerful cards so allowed? The issue is that if you split up the ban list, what's more often going to happen is that no one's going to go to that new CDH format and everyone's going to keep on playing Commander and just play the strongest thing in Commander. So if you make a new ban list for CDH and say, we're allowing these cards, Primeval Titans allowed, but we're taking away Soul Ring, you're going to get less people that play that format, and everyone else is just going to keep playing Commander because that's what they know and that's what they like and that's what they want to play.
In that point, you just did like a lot of work for nothing.
Right.
Because if you're not changing Commander functionally, then there's no reason for anyone to go into a less powerful, less fun format.
Right.
If anything, that means that you would want to ban more cards in Commander, but that doesn't fix the problem that is being addressed here. The real problem is like, well, we don't want people pub stomping casual tables with CEDH decks. Like, that's really why I think this conversation comes up, is because someone brings a precon to their local game store, and then someone else comes in and plays turn 1 Soul Ring, turn 1 Mana Crypt into Wandering Archaic turn 1, and then just completely copies everything else at the table. And it's that's a bad example because Wandering Archaic sucks in a CEDH deck. Yeah. But I feel like it's different in a casual setting, right?
I know what you mean.
So the point still stands, right? I feel like those are the scenarios where then people will say, well, we should ban a bunch of these cards from, Commander. If anything, that's just bad because now no one can play them, and now that's less fun too.
Right? Yeah, I think the whole thing should be, I don't know. I want to play the powerful cards. I don't want to ban the powerful cards. That was the reason that I came to CDH and to Commanders, because all the powerful cards still exist here to play. I mean, when the card gets to a point where it's breaking the entire game, I had that conversation, but we're nowhere near that right now.
I don't think we're anywhere near that.
Yeah, Flash, and I personally don't even think Flash was the end of the world. I've said before, I kind of liked playing in a Flash meta. I thought that Flash meta was fun. This meta is different. It's maybe, if anything, faster than the Flash meta. I feel like there's a lot more ad nauseum right now than there was when Flash was around.
Yeah, that's very true.
So I feel like the format sped up since the Flash got banned, which is kind of like the opposite of what I think a lot of people wanted to happen.
We got Jeweled Lotus since Flash was banned too, right? Yeah. And now there's so many commanders that just combo with their commander that, it doesn't even matter about Flash anymore. We just have other ways that we can go really fast too.
Right. Yeah, but I like where the CDH format is right now. I think it's in a super healthy spot. Yeah. I think the only thing that would be there are some things that I maybe would ban for a month just to try them out, or for a couple of games just to see what the format would look like if it were different. Like, I would love to see what the format would look like with no partners. Just see which individual commanders would rise to the top. But what would probably happen is Najeela would be the best deck.
Najeela would be the best.
Kenrith would be the second deck. All the 5-color decks would be really good.
And then you have a couple of other 3-color decks that are good, but there's going to be no 4-color piles. All those are bad because Jeweled Lotus is going to run this format.
And yeah, Jeweled Lotus is still going to be good, and so the 5-color decks that can be cast off of Jeweled Lotus, like Najeela, I think Najeela would just be the best deck by a mile if the partners got banned.
Yeah.
Even if Najeela isn't the second best deck right now, I just think Najeela would just be so much more. Najeela would have everything.
Honestly, I think removing partners just forces everyone to play worse decks all the time. Right. Is the other thing too,
which is not what you want. and part of me is like, I want everything to be more diverse. If you get rid of partners, maybe you'll get more diverse. But I don't think you will.
No,
You'll just
I
get
don't
like
think so either.
3 really good decks. What partners do is allow you to play Thrasios Tymna, Thrasios Bruise. You can play, you can split them all up and mix them all up, so you can create that diversity and switch them up, but still containing the power of partners.
Exactly, right? And it doesn't have to be Thrasios. It can be Crom and Tymna, right? Like, there's so much customization that can come with partners that it's actually my favorite aspect of the format is the partner pairings. Because I think that just having more things available to you is what also helps diversity increase as well, because not everyone is going to play the best thing because it's the best thing, even in a CEDH setting. I've said this before, but people are still going to have emotional attachments to different cards, and for different reasons, they're going to want to go to different decks, even if it's not the most 100% optimal deck to play in a specific setting. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, but banning cards just helps restrict that and helps restrict that, kind of personality aspect to EDH in general.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the same in other formats like Modern and Legacy. There are definitely like the best deck and second and third best decks. And after that, there are 10 to 15 other decks that are playable at any given time in Modern or Legacy. Every time I check, there's different decks that you can play. You know what I mean? Like, yes, the same couple of decks are going to always be present at the tops, but there's always going to be other decks, and CDH is no different.
Yeah,
so
there's going to be a lot of decks you play based off of a mana call, and there's just going to be, like I said, a lot of other personality stuff that comes with people playing their decks, and people just grow attached to them. So
what?
So again, you see, I feel like trying to do a whole podcast based around that isn't going to work out
that
either.
Won't work
because
either. Yeah.
There's just these. It's all these like just tiny little short topics that come up when we talk about cards that we could play in Commander, but we actually can't. Like these weird Rule Zero scenarios. What do you think about playing non-legendaries in the command zone?
I don't think about it.
Yeah, I talked about a Godsire deck once, and then I was just like, I don't want to go into a pod where someone's gonna bitch about me having a Godsire deck, and then I can't play it.
Yeah, I feel like that probably wouldn't happen though. I feel like no one's gonna have a problem with you playing Godsire.
Nah, probably not, but you never know.
Just in case, like the rules are there for a reason.
Yeah, so like that's another thing, like something that you could do, and some other kind of theory that people have talked about, but there's really not a lot behind it. I don't think it would be huge. Which is funny because a couple weeks ago we were just talking about like what a 5-color Ragavan deck would be.
Yeah, we were talking about that. I think we maybe gave some people a little bit of hopes that we would do something like that.
But it's not really something we have much of an interest in.
As we're figuring out in these chats that we're having before we record the podcast, we don't really care about changing the ban list very much.
No, I hope that a lot of people don't get upset with us for saying like, yeah, we're just not going to do a Rule Zero game. So maybe I'm glad that we're saying all this before we start recording the podcast, and then we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I don't want to make anyone mad when we record the podcast.
Or upset. Yeah, we'll just keep them lingering, right? We'll just keep dangling that carrot in front of them.
This whole thing we've been talking about what we don't want to talk about on the podcast.
We could talk about on the podcast,
but that's not the part of Commander that we care about. For me, the part of CDH and Commander that I care about is the gameplay, is what we have in front of us, the tournament results, things that I could play within the rules that we have right now. I think that's what I'm thinking about constantly. Is like, what can I tweak to Corvold nonstop?
Exactly.
Not like, I'm never thinking about like what would happen if I could add white to Corvold. That's just not like, I don't care.
Like balance was in the format, right?
Yeah, like that's just
those
it's not.
Thoughts
I don't think about that.
Neither do I, right? I will only start to think about something else when something changes with the format.
Right.
When new cards come into the format, if something does get unbanned or banned, then yeah, I'll be happy. But to think about it then. But I mean, otherwise,
theorizing.
I'm not into the theory of that side. I want facts, I want statistics, and I want what I can play right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about too.
Okay. Well, I want to make sure that we thank everyone for watching, and if they'd like to support us, they can do so at Patreon, like our $100 patrons, Baby Jeebus and Demon of Roz.
That's a great idea. Once we do record the podcast, we'll make sure to let them know that they can get any merch at playtowinmtg.com.
We can't forget to shout out Dragon Shield, our sponsor.
Right.
And I think we'll also need to make sure that we tell people that there's an affiliate link down below.
That's
can't
a very
forget
good
that
point.
either.
And then we'll make sure to let them know about Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, our social media. They can follow us there too.
Oh, we have a website too, Play to Win MTG, that you can go get your Play to Win merch over there too.
All right, and I did say that before, but when we do that, I'll just say it the one time. You don't have to say it a second time.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I thought you said something else, but I feel like I always do that.
You've done it once before only.
Is that it?
Right,
Just
but
once
that was
before?
when we were recording, not when we were not recording.
That's true. Thank God I got this flub out right now before we started recording.
And then we'll just thank them for watching once we start recording.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll say like, welcome to the Play to Win podcast, where we talk about winning in CEDH. I'm Cam.
And I'm Dylan.
Great.
And we'll get into it
and
from
then
there.
and then we'll start taking it from there. Okay.
I'll hit record.
All right. And on that one. Special shout out to the $50 patrons here: AJ Albosabi, Stashes, Mitchell Shepard, Justin, Man Solo, Nicola Marikovic, Stephen Schlichty, Big TP15, That Green Guy, Isaiah Breliski, Pedro C, Jacob Depp, Michael Ballou, Jan Wildfang, Thomas Bueno, Swampy McGee, Lauren Connell, David Nelson, and Jormags. Thank you all.
I love you, and I would love to.
We're doing a bit.
We're doing the whole podcast is us talking about what the podcast should be about.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, the podcast is
So
recording.
am I going to be in the podcast?
I'm going to keep this in because it's going to make it seem a lot more fluid. I'll have to cut some of it, but luckily we can like jump around to the both of us.
I was asking, and you said no. You don't have to repeat your whole thing. What do you mean? What do you think? What do you mean?
Our verbiage was probably very confusing.
We're great actors.
Yeah.
We're brilliant actors. That's why.